You're fired. I don't need anyone who defies me. Pack up your stuff and get out of here. I got fired for standing up to the company's president. After that, my supervisor Sarah's words inspired me to start my own business. This time, I won't run away. I'll stand up and fight boldly. I won't let anyone who hurts our valuable employees get away with it. Who are you, really? Sarah's eyes seemed a bit teary as she witnessed everyone's determination. My name is Charles Moore. I turned 30 this year. I joined an IT company right after graduating from college, and this is my 6th year here. I moved to New York from the countryside when I graduated from college, and I've been living alone since then. Since I was good at handling computers, I majored in information technology in college. The company I joined was built from the ground up by President James Williams. President Williams's company has become a focal point in the industry. At first, I was proud to join such a reputable company as a new graduate. I was excited about the new life that was about to begin. However, reality isn't that sweet. When I actually joined the company, I gradually realized that the president had many forceful and unreasonable rules. And I was increasingly troubled by the situation where I had no choice but to follow those rules. Hey, you must secure this client no matter what. Today again, the president's yelling echoed through the room. Arguing here would only result in a long reprimand later. I had already learned that over the few years since I joined the company. At this point, it felt like the employees were being worked like the president's slaves. You, Charles, you look like you have something to say. You know what happens if you go against me while you're here, right? Yes, I understand. The president glared at me sharply. Today, I had intended to speak my mind, but his piercing gaze made me freeze as if I had turned to ice. As a result, I ended up saying nothing. My sales performance was good, and I was head and shoulders above the others. It was expected that I would be promoted smoothly, and I was confident about it. Even as a system engineer, I was dragged into sales and given quotas. It was an impossible quota to achieve. I often took the remaining work home and worked through the night. If I didn't meet the quota, I'd be called by the president and face a training session. Although we got overtime pay, the intense workload left everyone exhausted. However, amidst those hellish days, there were brief moments of relief. Good job, you're top of the charts again this month. That's amazing. The one handing me a can of coffee was my manager, Sarah Smith. It was just luck. That's not true. It's the result of your skill and hard work. I looked away, embarrassed by the straightforward compliment. Sarah is 6 years older than me. She's not only competent at her job, but also considerate of her employees, and everyone admired her. I am one of those who respect Sarah. Sarah meets the president's unreasonable demands effortlessly and even exceeds expectations. I was also hanging in there and achieving results, but many employees eventually hit their limit. Honestly, there wasn't a day I didn't think about quitting. But considering the clients who needed me and Sarah, I couldn't easily make the decision. Besides, I loved my job as an engineer, and my colleagues were all proud of their work. It was painful to see my juniors leave like they had lost their minds because of the president. I'm just not cut out to be an engineer. During a break, my subordinate Daniel confided in me. That's not true. I can vouch for your skills. You should have more confidence. I said it sincerely. It wasn't a lie. Daniel had high capabilities and was a valuable asset as an engineer. However, his communication skills were extremely poor. When he first joined, I was the one who took him under my wing. We finally started talking. Surprisingly, I discovered his friendly side, and we often spent nights discussing work. Even so, Daniel struggled with sales. And as the monthly department meeting approached, the president grew increasingly frustrated with the recent lack of sales growth. When the meeting starts, it always begins with the president's long speech. He points out the unpleasant current situation with a scowl. Sometimes he mehays in his old heroic stories and bragging, and depending on his mood, he singles out someone for a public scolding. I really hated this time. It's no different from bullying. All the yelling makes it hard to follow the content of his speech. And that day, the president's target was Daniel. He was made to stand in front and endlessly scolded by the president. His humanity was being denied, but no one dared to speak up. Because if you did, you might become the next target. Listen up, someone as gloomy as you doesn't deserve to live. Sorry. But the moment I heard those words, I stood up unconsciously. I felt my blood boiling. Everyone's eyes turned to me at once, but I didn't care. Enough is enough. There are things you can and can't say. Before I knew it, the words had slipped out of my mouth. Once I started, I couldn't stop expressing my feelings. What? Do you have a complaint? I don't think it's necessary to go that far. I directed my gaze at Sarah. Hey, how can you not control your subordinate? It's your job. I'm sorry. It seems he got a bit heated. It's not his true intention. Sarah asked the president on my behalf. Feeling sorry for Sarah, I looked straight at the president. Since I had started, I might as well express my thoughts fully today. After all, I had consistently been the top performer here. I had the right to voice one or two opinions without being criticized. I convinced myself and began to speak. With all due respect, President, in this day and age, I believe your methods are no longer viable. President, that's your excuse. If you target them when they're hesitant, it will surely lead to sales. That's how I built this place up. In today's world, that method is becoming more and more counterproductive. Sales haven't been good lately, have they? Charles, please. Sarah called out to me worriedly, but I continued regardless. Compliance has become stricter these days, so maybe we should try to be more accommodating. Hey, are you trying to criticize my methods? Since when did you become so high and mighty? The president stood up and slammed his hands on the table. His eyebrows raised sharply, and his face turned red with anger. You seem to be mistaken, but no matter how good you are at your job, you're just a pawn in this company. Saying this, the president sat back down heavily and crossed his legs. And it's me who moves these pawns. If you can't follow my orders, you don't deserve to work here. The president continued in a harsh tone. You're fired. I don't need anyone who defies me. Pack up your stuff and get out of here. The president glared at me. Deep wrinkles formed between his eyebrows, and his handsome face looked even more ruthless. Wait a minute. Sarah raised her voice at the president's announcement to fire me. President. What is it, Sarah? Do you have a complaint too? It's fine. I don't need anyone who questions me. Firing him so suddenly is. The president interrupted Sarah with a smirk. President, this happened because of your poor supervision. I'll expect a report later. With that, the president completely ignored me and started flipping through documents. That day, I decided to quit the company. But I had no regrets. I would have regretted abandoning Daniel in that situation. After completing the resignation procedures, just as I was about to leave, Sarah called out to me, and I turned around. Sarija, thank you for everything. As I was about to smile and say goodbye, Sarah spoke in a pained voice. You shouldn't have had to resign. I'm truly sorry. I couldn't protect you as your supervisor. She then apologized to me. No, this is fine. I couldn't look at her face as I left the company. As I exited the company's entrance, I saw Daniel, determined, carrying a large cardboard box in his arms. I knew better than anyone that once he decided, he wouldn't back down. Are you coming with me? Of course. And so, we left the company together. We then started working as freelance engineers. However, freelancing was unimaginably difficult and didn't always go as planned. We quickly realized the value of the name recognition from working at a well-known company. There were times when our income surpassed what we made as employees. But the lack of stability made us live in constant fear of our savings running out. Despite this, the days we spent encouraging each other and working were fulfilling. 2 months after quitting our jobs, Sarah contacted me, and we agreed to meet at a cafe. "Are you off work today?" Sarah shook her head at my question and said, "No, I quit my job too. It's all his fault." She referred to Williams with disgust, her expression filled with contempt. "Even after you left, he didn't change at all. He kept treating employees like pawns, using them up and discarding them." Sarah's face twisted with frustration. "How could someone like that become a president? Someone like you should be in that position." I thought I could endure it, but I just couldn't stand his ways anymore, so I quit. Her words made me realize something I had been thinking about for a while. "Are you working somewhere now?" "Right now, I'm enjoying the unemployed life." She sighed deeply, continuing in a resigned tone. "My job hunt isn't going well. It's all because of Williams." "Did the president do something?" "I don't have proof, but I keep getting rejected at the document screening stage. Even when I get to an interview, mentioning my previous company makes things awkward, and then I never hear back. I think he's applying some kind of pressure. I never imagined that someone as exceptionally talented as Sarah would find herself in such a situation. If you don't mind, would you like to work with me? I'm planning to start a company, but I can't offer much salary, and it won't be as high level as before." Sarah looked clearly confused by my sudden offer. "If you need a temporary job until you find something else, that's fine too, but no pressure." "Really?" Sarah looked at me skeptically. Her beauty, rivaling that of magazine models, made my heart race. This is how I decided to start my own business. I had already contacted some people who had left Williams's company, and a few had already agreed to join, so I informed them we were starting soon. Everyone was enthusiastically on board. Sarah also agreed to work with us. Since Sarah joined, the previously gloomy atmosphere of our team became lively and vibrant. Despite being only 30, she had risen to the position of manager at Williams's company. Naturally, her outstanding work quickly made her an admired figure among the other employees. Before she came, most of us were working with a sense of resignation. But seeing Sarah face her work diligently without giving up, everyone gradually became inspired, and as a result, our company's sales started to grow little by little. She was truly a savior for us. I would never be able to sleep with my feet pointing toward her. Thinking this while watching her intently working on the computer, Daniel noticed and spoke to me. "You look happy. What were you thinking?" "Oh, nothing." Trying to cover up my smile, Daniel continued with a grin. "I think you two are a good match. It's not just a professional relationship between you and Sarah from the previous company, right? Seems suspicious." "What are you talking about? There's nothing going on." Even though I denied it, I must have been smiling creepily. "Well, but someone as beautiful as Sarah wouldn't go for a guy like you." As insulting as that statement was, it was too true to argue against. My self-deprecating laugh only made me feel emptier. Then, 3 months after starting the business, our hard work finally paid off, and I began to gain confidence in my role as the president. Sales were steadily increasing, and everything seemed to be going well. Until he came along. "Hey, get the person in charge of this gloomy company out here." It was a typical Monday morning. As I was leisurely checking emails, a thunderous shout suddenly reached my ears. I rushed to the reception to see what was going on. "Hey, long time no see, Giles." To my surprise, Williams had shown up at our company without any prior notice. "Seems like business is booming. Did you pull some strings?" His mocking tone was laced with disdain. "No, it's because the employees have been working very hard." "I heard Sarah is working here." "Yes, she is. Our improvement is partly thanks to her efforts." Williams raised his eyebrows dramatically and said something outrageous. "Why did you hire her?" "When we met by chance, she mentioned she was struggling to find a job, so I offered her a position, that's all." "Fire her." Looking into Williams's angry eyes felt like facing a wild beast. I hid my trembling and asked for an explanation. "What do you mean?" "I don't like that she's working somewhere else without consulting me. And you too, Charles. Why don't you become a subsidiary of our company?" "I'm sorry, but I must refuse both requests. She's a valuable asset to us, and I want her to continue working here. Please leave. No matter what you say, we won't comply." "Getting cocky now that you're a little important. Fine, I have my ways. You'll regret this." Williams, unable to contain his anger, kicked a nearby trash can and stormed out. However, as he said, I started to regret my impulsive words. From the next day, we began receiving calls from clients and partners wanting to reconsider their contracts with us. Some employees even expressed their desire to quit. Just when our business was stabilizing, what was going on? I decided to call one of our clients to find out the reason. As expected, Williams had investigated the companies we dealt with and pressured them to stop doing business with us. He was also trying to poach our employees, with some reporting attempts to bribe them. I buried my head in my hands, but I couldn't consider firing her, nor could I think of becoming a subsidiary. I didn't want to relive those hellish days. However, I thought about each of my employees, including one who had just joyfully announced their engagement. As I was struggling with my thoughts, Sarah stood in front of me. Her expression was resolute, as if she had made up her mind. "This happened because of me. Please let me go. If I return to Williams's company, this one can be saved." "But you are the president. Think about the company first." She cut me off, scolding me. As I was at a loss for words, I heard the sound of several footsteps, and the door burst open. "Sarah, what are you saying? You can't quit. There's no reason for you to leave." Employees had somehow heard and crowded in. Feeling encouraged by everyone's support, I looked straight at her and said, "Everyone is right. There's no need for you to quit. This situation is undoubtedly my responsibility as the president." I clenched my fist with determination. "This time, I won't run away. I'll stand up and fight boldly. I can't let anyone who hurts our valuable employees get away with it." "That's right. Let's show them the strength of our company. If we don't fight now, when will we?" Inspired by my words, Daniel and the other employees raised their fists in the air. Sarah, seeing everyone united, seemed to have tears in her eyes. Together, we visited each company that had refused to do business with us. We were turned away more than once or twice. Many companies, fearing Williams's pressure, would apologize and refuse as soon as they heard our company's name. Yet, we kept apologizing and diligently found new business partners in between. Williams's pressure was greater than we imagined, and at one point, the company's survival was in jeopardy. Still, everyone persevered without a single complaint. I also focused on what I could do, developing systems and going out for sales. Thanks to everyone's hard work, sales gradually increased, and when our annual sales reached an all-time high, we celebrated together. Around that time, the system I developed became a huge hit. It caught the industry's attention, and many companies wanted to sign contracts with us. When the company was on track, Sarah brought me a can of coffee, just like before, when I stayed late. "To think you could stand up to Williams as an equal. Who are you, really?" "It's not my strength alone. Everyone worked hard together." I put my finger on the can's lid. I was confident we had won a significant victory over Williams. One day, as soon as I arrived at the office, the reception area was unusually noisy. When I rushed over, I saw Williams there. But he looked different. Not his usual arrogant self, but rather troubled. "Do you need something? Please, come back to our company. The gap left by you and Sarah is too big." He approached me with an uncharacteristically humble demeanor, Please, I'm begging you. Since you both left, sales have been declining, and we can't manage the work. Now I understand. You two were indispensable to us." As I was about to refuse, Sarah appeared. From a distance, I could see Daniel watching us with concern. I am not the same person I was back then. I have a place to protect now, and many people to protect. I steeled myself and faced Williams. "I was waiting for you, Sarah. I was wrong, please. Come back to our company." Williams apologized, almost to the point of groveling. "I'll double your salary if you want. Anything, just come back." Despite his past misdeeds, Williams still held power in the area. His company's size and his own name carried immense weight. I waited for Sarah's response, but she calmly replied, "I refuse." Both Williams and I were taken aback by her unexpected reply. "President, I appreciate your recognition, but it's not about the money." Sarah continued, her expression stern. There was a quiet fury in her demeanor that was palpable. "Please stop interfering with us any further. I apologize for everything, please, I beg you." Williams looked at Sarah with pleading eyes, but seeing our firm resolve, he slumped his shoulders and left. For a while, a heavy atmosphere hung over the office. But Sarah clapped her hands to dispel it. "Let's get back to work. The president has a meeting soon, doesn't he? We'll be late at this rate. Everyone, let's get ready." She said this with a gentle smile. After that, I heard that Williams's company, unable to maintain its operations, quickly lost its credibility and went bankrupt. Williams, who had always had a bad reputation, lost all his status and honor. He tried to make a comeback, but his wrongdoings were well known among his peers, and even the banks refused to deal with him. After his company disappeared, we never saw Williams again. Rumor has it that to repay the remaining debts, he's working multiple part-time jobs from morning to night. However, his pride as a former president causes constant conflicts with his colleagues. As a result, he frequently changes workplaces, and now no one knows where he is. The real victims were his former employees, who suffered the most from the company's collapse. Even though the company went bankrupt, it had been a major player for a long time, and it had gathered a lot of talented employees. Even after Sarah left, those who admired her stayed in touch with her occasionally. Some of those employees decided to join our company, knowing that Sarah was here. It happened just when our business was stabilizing. We had been discussing recruiting due to business expansion, so their arrival was very fortunate. Unlike the old days when we constantly worried about money, we could now manage the company with some peace of mind. Remember when President Williams barged in and asked you to come back? I've always wondered why you turned him down. Why? Simply because I hated Williams's company. Sarah's words made me smile wryly. Well, but I mean, why did you stay with our company? I asked Sarah a question that had been on my mind for a long time. Many companies would want someone with her talent, not just Williams's. Even though we were acquaintances, I was curious why she chose to stay with a small, newly established company. You're incredibly talented, Sarah. You could easily succeed in a bigger company. Sarah then sat on the sofa and began to share what she had kept inside. When I was at the previous company, I was dissatisfied with the methods and rules, but I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what would happen if I did. Sarah looked straight at me as she said this. You had the courage to stand up to Williams. Even though you ended up leaving the company, you looked so bright to me, and you seemed cooler than anyone else. I was genuinely surprised to hear that Sarah saw me in such a way. After you left, I worked earnestly, but I often wondered if this was really okay. I listened seriously to Sarah's feelings for the first time. Then, right after I impulsively quit my job, you reached out to me, and I decided to follow you for life. Hearing her story, I felt a bit embarrassed, but I was relieved to understand her feelings. Thanks to the daily efforts of Sarah and all the employees, the company's performance steadily improved. Finally, we reached one of our long-term goals. becoming a publicly traded company. I had nothing but gratitude for the employees who stuck with me through the tough early days. And there was another significant change in my life. President, today, I want to hear your answer. Sarah, with her already large eyes opened even wider, looked at me intently. As usual, while discussing work, she brought it up like a regular routine. And when will you start calling me by my first name, President? That's too high a hurdle for me. I've always managed to dodge the question, but today was different. Scratching my head, I tried to think of a way out of this situation, but Sarah suddenly stood right in front of me. I want a clear answer. What do you think of me? I'm not moving until you tell me. She puffed out her cheeks adorably. I think you're a wonderful person, good at your job, and liked by everyone. In truth, I was even more aware of her than that. She was talented and beautiful, yet never arrogant. Seeing her kindness and dedication, I found myself gradually drawn to her. But I thought someone like her would never be with someone like me, a mediocre president. So I kept my feelings to myself, deciding to behave as just another employee. But being confronted like this shook my resolve. She smiled as if she saw right through me. That's not all, is it? I've noticed. She looked incredibly happy. I could feel my face turning bright red. When I decided to start the company, I was desperate. I feared I would end up hating myself for leaving Williams's company if I didn't succeed. During the crisis when our company was on the verge of bankruptcy due to Williams's pressure, I often regretted standing up to him. Why did this have to happen to me? Many sleepless nights passed with such thoughts. Still, there were people who believed in me, even in my reckless state. People who stayed by my side despite everything. I met an incredible woman like Sarah and gained irreplaceable friends like Daniel. I want to continue pursuing greater goals without losing sight of what's important. Sarah, how about dinner tonight? First, I need to open up about my feelings to the woman blushing in front of me.